Hello and welcome to the podcast. Every moment is sacred, where we interweave meditation and healing into everyday life. I am your host, Rain Elizabeth Stickney. Now, let us begin. Hey, welcome back to part 2 of Enchanting Stories with Cat Caldwell Myers. We continue our delightful and insightful tale by sharing with you how Cat continues even when her path was not clear. And more than anything, she needed a miracle, and you get to find out what happens. In this conversation, we also go into the poem The Invitation with Oriah Mountain Dreamer, meaning that that poem naturally comes into our conversation and we embody it, looking at what does the poem really mean for us and what does it mean for Cat. We travel all the way from miracles into timelessness, and we end in love. All the way through, you get to enjoy Cat's wisdom, wit, and humor. And I'm looking forward to sharing the second half of our time together with you. First, I want to remind you who Cat is. She is a wonderful podcaster, and her show is called Horses, Mountains, and Dogs. She also works with clients, and she connects those clients to their inner animal through nature and through experiences. She specializes in body confidence, humble wealth, and natural health. She's currently working on her first book. She's also leading online masterminds, and she has a wait list for her in-person ranch retreats. You can follow her on social media, and you can reach out to her through her website or email to learn more about who she is and what she offers and how you can connect. Now, her website is currently under construction, but you can email her at Cat Caldwell Myers. That's Cat with a C, Caldwell with a D like dog, Myers, Myers, Cat Caldwell Myers at gmail.com. You can also find her on Instagram at Cat Caldwell Myers. You can find her on Facebook, both through her name and through her podcast name. So on Facebook, Cat Caldwell Myers will bring her up, and Horses, Mountains, and Dogs podcast will bring up the page for the show. So please find her and discover all that she's about. Enjoy this conversation. And before we get started, I want to share another reminder. This is the greeting that has all of the reminders. I am hosting an in-person retreat this summer at the Trapp Family Lodge in Stowe, Vermont. This is a beautiful natural setting with wonderful trails, farm animals, tons of flowers in the summer, beautiful views of the mountains. They have a concert stage that looks out onto the mountains, and we'll spend an evening there in ritual, watching the sunset. If it's clear, we'll stargaze, and it will also help us with a process of release. So this retreat is for people who love to meditate. It's for people who have never meditated before, but they're curious. Is that you? Have you meditated, before and you love it? Or are you curious about meditation and you would like to step into the meditative flow to see if it's something for you? Come to this retreat. I invite you. I want you there. It will be so fun, so magical. And there will also be an altar that we build together. There will be instruction as well as silent meditation and ample time for you to explore the property, rest, relax, enjoy the amenities at the retreat site. There are many, many, many wonderful things that will happen there, but mostly we get to be in person, which is something that I dearly, dearly miss. And it's a great joy and pleasure and honor to be offering an in person retreat for the purpose of your beautiful transformation and awakening. The big reminder about all of this is that we're in the early bird pricing of this retreat until tomorrow, April 15th at midnight. So if you would like the lowest price available to invest in yourself, to invest in your practice, to really get a break from it all. And up there at the lodge, there is a wonderful away feeling a person has. It is stepping into the sound of music, which is who the Von Trapp family are. The original family members who settled at this location are the Von Trapp family members who left Austria, toured the States in song, and settled here in this Vermont wilderness because it reminded them of their homeland in Austria. So you step into this other world, and it is magical and filled with opportunity of self-discovery. So either email me meditation@rainelizabeth.org or go to my website, rainelizabeth.org, and click on the Stillwater meditation tab. And the retreat information is there, nestled into the meditation offerings. So you can be new to meditation, you can be experienced. I welcome you. I embrace you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. It is my great delight and eternal happiness to step back into conversation with Cat Caldwell Myers and share with you the miracles and loveliness that is her life.
I think the other thing I've been thinking about recently, so I was telling you a little bit about this horse road trip book that I'm working on. That's also like a 40-page daily reader is also what it is, by the way. So what's been interesting going back through that is so many of the stories are in some ways repetitive, and they have this very high level of intensity. So for example, let's just take the bullfighter thing for a minute. Okay, you go to the rodeo, it's a 2-hour event, right? And you've got all kinds of things. You've got people galloping with flags, you've got barrel racing, you have the bullfighting, you have some different things. But 2 hours of bullfighting might be a little much. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It might be the right thing for some people, but might be a little much. So it's been interesting to reread many of the chapters where that is actually what happened. It's totally what happened, and that's the order in which it happened. And my husband is a chemical engineer, also in recovery from that job of 30 years. But he's so detail oriented. So he's so funny as he's reading through the chapters. He's like, "Babe, we weren't in North Dakota when this happened. No. We were you're missing the point. The point was we were driving up the mountain." Right? But it's like, it's amazing to go back through your writing and back through the history, a chapter of your life with the perspective you have from everything you've gone through and everything that you are now to decide how many bullfighting scenes are we going to put in, for example, regardless of the fact that there might have been 20 of them that took place. That would be half the story. So maybe we'll edit some of these out in place of some of these stronger solutions for healing, like the healing stories the amazing miracles that took place in the desert. This
Mhm.
one of the strongest themes is this idea of, have you ever been in that place where you had no idea how you were going to continue? You really
Mhm.
just didn't know how you were going to make it work. There was nothing that made sense. And then, like a mirage, an angel or some sort of human being or some sort of situation appeared before you. Yeah,
Grace.
grace. And I have been in that situation, and I know you have many,
Mm.
many times. So I feel
Yeah.
like those are the stories. But the other side of it is, those aren't the only stories. Like, we need the balance, the reality of, man, some days are really intense.
Hmm.
They are. All you've got is a prayer, say, for your horse to poop because he's colicking.
Yeah.
True stories. True
Yeah.
stories, right?
Yeah. So, what is one healing story where there was grace for you that you would like to share with us?
Mm. Oh gosh, Rain, the one that's coming to mind right now is a story that happened in the desert, the Flaming Gorge of Utah, if you've been there. Speaking of flames. And again, what's so interesting, sometimes the way that things are set up. So I remember a friend of mine who's a professional comedian explaining comedy to me. And he was like, the basic premise of comedy is that there's a setup and you think you're going a certain direction. And then there's a punchline, which takes you a totally different way. And that's why it's funny. Well, sometimes those are also the moments where that's why it's miraculous, or that's why you see how close to the edge you were, or what was like really going on. So we had this very interesting reception, and I've changed all the names and so on and so forth in the book for various obvious reasons because you want to protect people, and also these are just my perceptions of what happened. Everybody's going to have a different story, right? Three sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth.
Hmm.
We'll let Judge Judy decide what that is for her own version of the story. So, anyhow, we were in the desert. We had left Teton Valley. It was very difficult to leave. We had this huge rainstorm happen. Okay. We get to this very dry, arid desert area, and we're told that dogs are not allowed.
Oh.
And we're traveling with our dog. That's another 5 hours to keep going into the fire zone.
Mm.
Into the fire zone is where we're headed. Anyhow, long story short, because we're going to get to the story of Grace, it was a pretty long, difficult night with many different negotiations in a situation where you didn't feel welcome.
Mm.
And you get to that place of just wanting to get it over with. And right before we leave, just to give you a little insight into this story, the boss, and there was kind of a group, right? But the boss lady came running down on her four-wheeler, and you could see the dirt lighting up in the desert, right? She came down from the high hill to see us off and collect more money from us again. That had not been the original agreement, but here it is. Let's just get out of town at this point. What can we do to make this right for both of us? And the front of my truck has a grill on it. All right. It's a very large 2500 diesel Ram. Okay. We call her Red Beauty, if you're wondering. Anyway, so the front of my truck has a grill, and we're standing there finishing this negotiation. I'm giving her another $10 cash and saying, are we done now? Like, is this it? Is there anything
Mhm.
else I can do to make it right? Or can we get on our way? And at that moment, I look over and I see a bird, a small bird that has been wedged into the grill. It's dead, and its wings and
Oh.
everything. We must have hit it driving. And I'm like, oh, and I'm thinking, I'm going to have to deal with that. I'll get some plastic gloves, or I have what am I going to do to take care of that? And she reaches out with her bare hands and just plucks it. Wow. All right. Like, I thought I might have a little ceremony or something, but there it's done. Okay. It was just like, just people just see things really differently. And it was just such a poignant moment of like, all right,
Mhm.
and we're done now. It was really, really interesting. So I'm driving down the road with Rachel, who came with us the whole summer and helped with the girls, this 26-year-old girl who I'm still friends with, who lives in Texas and now has her own babies, by the way.
Awesome.
And we're driving through the Flaming Gorge Desert, and, all of this incredible scenery, but it's really dry. I love the lusciousness of the mountains. I like the waterfalls and the creeks and the wildflowers.
Mm-hmm.
I can pass through the desert. I do not feel at home there. I feel it is a passing through place. Okay. So we're driving, and I'm saying to her, gosh, it's really hard to leave a place feeling like if something happened, you couldn't go back or call them for help. Careful what you think, friends.
Oh boy.
And sometimes these are the moments where, when you look back on it, I mean, those thoughts were so true, but were they even thoughts, or was it really more of a feeling, like that feeling sense of what was happening, and that ambiguous grief or ambiguous story of like, what just happened there? I mean, I can tell you the bird thing, but that's just like one tiny little story of all these weird little things that had been happening the whole time we were there, beginning with your dog can't be here, and me saying, I emailed you that I was traveling with a dog when I made the reservation months ago. Like, there's no way we would have showed up with this awareness, you know? So what can we do now? So anyways, we're driving, and there's a lot of construction going on. They are redoing the blacktop. Did I mention it's July in the desert with the fresh hot blacktop? Do you see where this is going? So anyways, I come around the corner. Are you feeling hot? I come around a corner, and like that, I just heard this pop. And then I felt the trailer fishtail, and I pulled over, and sure enough, not only had we blown a flat, it was like spaghetti strings, right? It was a really serious flat, all wrapped up around the axle. And so I pulled over, and luckily I have this thing called US Rider, which is basically like AAA for horse people. But unfortunately, I wasn't the only one who blew a flat that day. So I call them. They're like, well, ma'am, it's going to take us 2 or 3 hours to get there. And it's hot. It's like 100 degrees. You know, it's probably about 11 or 12 right now. So we pull over, and there are some pine trees. We unload the horses, we tie them up to the pine trees, we get all the kids out, we're setting up a picnic, and I'm starting to haul water in buckets up and down for everybody. And then I see this man, like a mirage, I swear. And it's probably about 15 or 20 minutes after I made the call, right? And we're doing all this setup. And I see this man walking towards me in a construction vest. Like, wow, you got here quick. They told me it'd be a couple hours, you know? Are you with Adams Towing? And he's like, Adams Towing? They sent those guys? No way. No, I'm not. I was just driving by, and I saw you're in trouble, ma'am. And by the way, I parked a quarter mile up the road where there's a pullout. Like, you should get out of this area, because I'd set up cones and stuff, but I just didn't even know where I was. I just knew blowing a serious flat could be worse. There's a mountain pass I was headed up to. So like, why keep driving on a flat, right? So anyways, to make a long story short, because these are just like these moments that you can't make up, Rain. You can't make up. This is exactly what happened. Like, truth is stranger than fiction. And so he says to me, you know, they sent those guys. And so he starts helping me fix this flat. He helps us move the horses without having to reload them, because we don't want to add anything more to the load now that we're driving it on the axle. And so anyhow, he grew up on a ranch. He's a rancher. He has pigs and goats. He's like on 4-H, because I'm like, do you know how to walk a horse? Are you sure you could do that? Oh yeah, ma'am. And I can see that it's a rhetorical question, because he's wearing a belt buckle and boots, you know. Like, just like came out of the you know, like dropped out of the cloud, you know what I mean? And so then he's helping us. I'm like, you know, can I pay you directly? Like, what can I do to make this right? And he said, you know, I had a lady come to my shop last week who I helped, but I wasn't able to do what she needed. And she was really upset about it and wrote me a bad review, and there was nothing I could do to make it right. So this is me paying it forward, helping you. And I don't want you to pay me for it, you know, just like speaking of that grace, you know, it actually gives me chills. So then the story continues, if you really want to know, as most journeys do. So then he helped us go and get new tires, because the tread had been wearing incorrectly because we had an issue with our axles. I didn't know that at the time. And as he said, I have a few theories about what might be going on, but I'm not going to tell you what they are, because they might scare the bejesus out of you. And so Rachel and I are looking at each other like, yeah, we'll go to the tire shop. Like, oh my gosh. And then Rachel is very deeply Christian. Her husband's a worship pastor. And so she said to me, she said, Cat, did you see what his name is? Did you see his name? Like, what? Name's Gabe. Like, what is that? Right. And I'm thinking, I'm not a very good biblical person. Okay. So I'm like, is it like Gabe and Abel? Like, what's that? You know, she's like, Angel Gabriel. You know? yeah, he did just kind of drop out of the sky, basically, and like bring us this message that it's going to be okay and change our tire and have all the things we needed. And then I was like, can I give you a cold drink? I have some LaCroix. So we get to the tire shop and we're dealing with, getting the tire fixed. And then he shows up with another horse trailer and he's like, it's going to take them a couple hours to fix these tires. And then I can take your trailer over to my shop and check those axles, make sure everything's safe before you go. And meanwhile, I'm going to use this other trailer that we're fixing that's empty and drive your horses to my house so that they can go out in green pasture and not continue to be stressed in a hot trailer in the middle of the Utah heat. And you can hang out with my wife and my children and play in the air conditioning, right? I mean, like, okay. And I'll buy everybody pizza for dinner. Like, this is going to work out okay. What is even happening? Like, what is even happening? And the other thing that was like so amazing about all of that, it was this interesting space of really missing my partner because he wasn't with us. He was in India. So he's on the other side of the earth. It's the middle of the day where we are. It's the middle of the night where he is. I'm telling him what's happening. He feels so powerless. But the only power he had was to send out prayers and good energy for us. And then literally this man showed up. Right?
Amazing.
You can't make it up. You can't make this stuff up.
Wow. Yes. Okay. Miracles, grace, healing. I've had the pleasure of talking with your husband face to face online like this. He is magical. I'm totally in love with him in like a friend crush kind of a way.
Yes. He's amazing. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. His ability to be present is unsurpassed. So I can see that global connection presenting just what you needed at just the right time in just the right way. Everyone got healed up. Everyone. Gabe got to pay it forward. He got to do something kind when he really needed to for his own heart.
Well, and it's interesting we bring that one up because earlier we were talking about my friend Anetta, and I didn't tell you this part, but we met on a rooftop in LA at a Kathy Heller live event. Okay. And I was trying to leave a tip in the hotel room. I always tip, but I didn't have, I think I only had like $1 or something, and I wanted to leave more like $5. And so I wrote this really nice card saying, I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate you did such a beautiful job cleaning my room. And this is like really hard work and I really appreciate it and all this stuff. And she was like, I can give you $5. And I was like, okay, I can send you a Venmo, And then I had this conversation with someone recently about tipping specifically and about paying it forward. And I had an uncle who talked about if someone's having a hard day or giving you really bad service, tip them even more. Because you might be able to tip and turn the sail on the hard day that they're having and help them see themselves because probably everyone else, you know what they're doing? They're ghosting them. They're not tipping them, or they're tipping them less for bad service. And you could be the person who's the bigger person and says, hey, you know what? I've had a really hard day too. Here you go.
Yeah. Yeah. You're doing a good job. There you go.
You're here. You carried the food. You dealt with the person next to you screaming and the dropped plate and whatever,
and whatever they were carrying with them to begin with, to even begin their shift.
Yeah. Lighten your load, man.
Oh, so many healing moments. I am amazed at the magical life that you lead and how you're so present for it every day, every moment with the animals and with nature, with the transitions, with the children, with the people. How do you do it? How do you stay this present and this alive?
I think it's a practice, Rain. I think it's a practice. And I also think I'm really tired a lot of the time. I mean, true story. I had this thought today. There was a season where my husband and I would like watch a show every night. I don't know, about an hour. Every now and then we'd watch 2 or 3, right? I can't remember the last time we watched a show. And it's like indicative of how tired we are and how many commitments we have and when our day starts and how many we're caring for. And I also think something that's really interesting I love fitness. I don't know if you know that about me, but I'm a trained health coach and a registered dietitian and so on, right? And I love eating healthy and I really love working out. Okay. And I was in this women over 40 bodybuilding Facebook group. That's a
Whoa.
thing, right? Okay, it's a thing. So anyway, I'm in there and this person posts something about like taking care of her 7 horses and having to unload 200 bales of hay and like all of this stuff. And by the way, does anyone have any recommendations of what macros she could eat or what she could do to get even stronger? And I sent her, I think, a private message or like in the comments. I was like, oh my gosh, kindred spirit. And like, here we are trying to get stronger. Joke. Because we're like calling all of this and all this response. Oh, we'll get stronger and we'll eat even better. Like insane, but we find each other there because we just know that there are going to be those moments that literally break us, and we talked about that when you were on the launch of the podcast, but when we lost the pony, right? There
Yes.
are there are just going to be chapters where we have nothing left and somehow we keep going. And I know you love poetry, so you may be familiar with this poem, The Invitation by Araya Mountain Dreamer.
Oh, yes. Such a good
Oh,
one.
such a good one. And for me, it's like the soundtrack of my life. It
Mhm.
doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know how you get up and feed the children after a night of weeping and not sleeping, right? Like these basic things. And by the way, I
Mhm.
totally just paraphrased. So thank you, Araya Mountain Dreamer. Please forgive me for not knowing the words exactly, but I feel
Yeah,
like,
but that is the message. How do you do it when you are broken and you have been weeping all night long and you get up and you put breakfast on the table?
yeah.
How do you do it? And that is actually the question that I'm asking you because I know that you are a person of grace and magic and
Mm.
you've had your hardships, you've had
Mhm.
things to
Mhm.
overcome. You're describing moments of what in the world am I going to do? And
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
you're a person of multi-dimension. It's
Mhm.
not like everything has been easy always. And so how
Mm-mm.
do you do it? How do you pick up the next bale of hay? You know, put
Yeah.
those snow boots on your kids.
I'll tell you one thing that is coming to me that I think is really important for people to hear is a lot more relaxing and letting go of time as we know it and trusting that it's okay to do it in the time and energy that you have. So, for example, getting up at a certain time, doing your meditation at a certain time, eating your food at a certain time, feeding your animals at a certain time, walking your dog at a certain amount of time for a certain amount of time, getting on the treadmill for a certain amount of time, checking into work for a certain amount of time. You know what I mean? Like something I've learned, and horse people call it horse time, mountain people call it mountain time, Hawaiian people call it island time. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
if we can just settle into, and speaking of moving, the time that we've moved to, which is this time, and it's this day. And I think I've learned to relax and accept and embrace each moment and also the energy that I have in that time. And you know what? It's not always the energy that I want to have,
Mhm.
right? We have those days where, I wish I had more energy to do this. And then I have these moments where I come home with the kids and I'm really tired. And all I want to do is feed the horses, put the groceries away, and go to bed. And my kids are like, could we ride right now? And when you're 5 or 7, like we can talk about, hey, our horses aren't going to be that excited to be ridden right now when it's dinner time, right? But if we give them a little food, we could groom them and hang out with them a bit and then put the groceries away and then come out and maybe sit on them and give them a hug before we go to bed. Because also, by the way, it's like 8 o'clock. you know? And it's interesting because I recognize that they're a mirror of me. When we have those moments of inspiration, it's like, you know what? We're going to turn the radio on in Red Beauty and we're going to hop outside and have a dance party right now, because like we got to change up the energy in here. So I think relaxing into the moment is a little bit of what I'm hearing, and relaxing into the time that you're in, allowing things to change instead of tightly holding on to a certain way of being and being true to yourself. I mean, that's one of the biggest things in this book that I'm writing. There were so many moments, and I was a super hormonal 6-month postpartum woman in this journey, driving around with all of this going on, right? Can you imagine? Like, I read it now, I'm like, no wonder I was sobbing, right? Like, no wonder I was having these breakdown moments of, what am I doing? Is it safe? What do we do? Do we continue? Right? So I think going back to allowing grace, allowing those feelings to be okay. Like, you have to move through the tears. You have to allow there to be off days. Truly, truly. And I think the other thing is, this is something that comes up a lot in equine assisted coaching. So most people who are working with horses are working with them for a particular discipline or sport. And there's this idea of leave your problems at the gate, or like leave your emotions in the barn, or whatever it is. Are you kidding me? Horses pick up everything. So they even pick up you trying to leave it there. Instead, what if we could say, hey, I'm here today, but I'm a little bit tired, or I'm feeling grief about something, or I'm feeling, like I was sharing with you before we started recording, concerns about writing a memoir and not wanting to hurt anyone's feelings.
Yeah.
Like, could we talk about what's really going on? And that so many of us are a container for all these feelings, all of these responsibilities of all of these animals and all of their hay and all of their manure, all of their needs, right? And all of that is part of the picture, but none of that exists if we forget to take care of our needs energetically. So I have a lot of practices of, eating healthy, exercising, caring for my body. Recently, remember, I went through being really sick this fall, and whether that was long COVID or what was going on, I just it was like I couldn't get a grip on being 100% healthy for more than like 10 or 15 days at a time. It was brutal.
Yeah.
And starting to listen to my body more when I felt like, okay, I'm at like 70, 80%. I could go out and take a long walk in the cold. I would take a short walk in the cold. Like these little shifts of allowing and relaxing that tension, that achieve, go, gotta have it thing that I think is such a big part of our culture, right? And just starting to say, I'm going to tune in to the fact that there's a snowstorm tonight and change my team's schedule, because we can do chores tonight. Someone doesn't need to come over and deal with the storm for an hour later to help us out tonight. No, right? Like, we think for each other and for the greater good, and allow ourselves to just relax. I think that's one of the biggest things. And whatever that looks like in any moment, we talk so much about letting go, but like, what if you could just relax into your grief, relax into your joy? Like, the blue jeans, the relaxed fit. That's what I'm talking about. That's me to a T. I think that's like, and body image. I mean, I have a lot of wisdom and teaching about that, but it's like, instead of wishing you were a certain way and working, so what if you could just totally love the way you are right now?
Excellent.
That's how I do it. Yeah. I don't know. And also, Rain, to be perfectly honest, I have no idea how we do it. Do any of us know how we do it? I don't know. Until later I look back and I'm like, oh, that's how I did it. That worked. That definitely wasn't working for me. If I could go back to my younger self and just whisper in her ear, hey, just chill out. It's going to be okay. Relax a little bit more. I heard older lady say, I think she was a therapist, if you could go back to your younger self 20, 30, 40 years ago, what would you tell yourself? And she said, I'd say, don't work so much. You don't need to work 10-hour days. It's a lot of wasted time.
Such a powerful message to relax into, fill in the blank, relax into the jeans, relax into the moment, relax into yourself, and give yourself a big hug and love yourself. Such a powerful message. So filled with all of the goodness that you are and that life can be for so many people.
I think another thing that really helps me, my dad always asks this question. It's a twofold question. So he'll say, sounds like things aren't going your way. And then he'll say, how's that working for you? And so when we have those moments, again, if we could just relax into, oh, I've shown up in the middle of the desert and my dog's not welcome. Instead, like I can even feel the tension in my shoulders. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Right? Instead, just being like, fascinating. Well, we're here and we paid to be here. We thought we'd be okay with our dog and we'll just settle in if you don't mind. Thank you very much.
We won't be long.
That's not how it went, by the way, but like looking back, like what if I had been that person at that time?
Mm-hmm.
But postpartum, all these babies, my husband not there. Right? The constriction. And I think so many of us were walking around in that state all the time. That was not good for our health.
Yeah. And I also noticed you were just perfect the way you were at that moment. You were postpartum, you were traveling, you were doing something that not many people would do. And you ran into some trouble. And all of the thoughts and feelings that were happening for you were just right for that moment and for who you were then.
Thank you, Rain. So true.
And you did
So
such a
true.
great job. You got all the way through it. And you got to witness that woman pluck that bird out of your grill barehanded. I mean, who gets to see that?
What a story, right? You can't make this stuff up. You really can't. Oh, yay. Guess we're not in Kansas anymore. Gosh.
Oh, it's been so amazing talking with you.
You too. We could talk for hours.
Yeah, all night.
Yep. I got nowhere to be. Let's keep going. What else we got? What else? What other healing stories are supposed to come out?
Well, we started with moving. We've talked about animals. And I don't know for sure, but I think you have different facets of your work. This is my impression. I mean, you're writing a book, so you're a writer. I know you as a podcaster. Your podcast is Horses, Mountains, Dogs. It's amazing. It's a great show. My favorite part is actually at the very end where you have to help me get the words right, but you say something like, get out there and smell the hay.
You got it, girl. That's it. That's it.
Because that's what it's all about. Like, get out there.
Yeah.
And take a deep breath. Just bring it all in. Breathe it all in.
Totally.
But you're also a health coach. And so tell us, like, what do you do in the world? What is your gigantic, amazing, beautiful offering that people are just loving you up for?
Oh my gosh, I have a few things in the fire right now, Rain, that I'm offering. And one of them is coming up on this book. And the book is a journey, and I'll be leading retreats around the country. And we're really excited. The book tour, it's all coming together. And the kickoff is at the Kentucky Horse Park for something called Briar Fest. So Briar, they're these small little model horses. You might have grown up with them around. Yeah,
I did.
You might remember that it was a piece of my podcast giveaway when I did the launch. And I do a soul coaching session where I help a person check in energetically with their soul horse. I find them a match and I send it to them. And they have this horse that then they get to connect with and keep doing the energetic work with. Because the truth is, so many people are drawn to the idea of having a horse, but they really have no idea what it's all about. I do teach all of that, and we do VIP days where you can come to Hidden Ranch and see what it's like to wake up with the sunrise. And we'll be doing this traveling across the country with the whole herd. So if you're out west, you can meet us starting in Kentucky, and then I think we're going to end up in the Northwest because we have a couple of weddings to go to in Idaho and back to the Wyoming area where we used to live. We're partnering with some dude ranches. We're working on that right now to do workshops and retreat offerings this summer. So big plans for the summer. But most of my work is virtual. I have a 3-month signature program called Get Fit with Your Dog, where we tap in, and I am available to do it with other animals. I've had a couple people reach out to work with their cats, and they have a very different energetic blueprint, just like your bunny rabbit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what it's really about is tapping into your animal's energy, because they want you to be healthy, by the way. And they are healthy in their innate nature. It's just the things we often constrict, like not letting them out enough, or enough walks or fresh air. And you know what? You also need those walks and fresh air. So it's like, when I talk about getting fit, yes, there's the physical aspect, but we go even deeper to check in and attune with our animal mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And then I make personalized templates for food. We play a lot with, hey, how much does your dog sleep? Guess what? You're going to focus on sleep this week, So tune in. How does your dog nap? Can you nap like this? Like, it's a very playful experience. So I love doing that program. I'm only offering it. I know you said you would probably air this in April. So I only have 2 more spots available this spring. And then I'm going to close it up, because we're not taking that program on the road with us traveling July, August, and September. But yeah, lots of offerings, lots of virtual offerings. I also have a community called Healthy as a Horse. We call ourselves ha. Healthy as a Horse. I know you love it. And that's $50 a month. And we've just got a weekly email that comes out about what's going on at the ranch, and a monthly Zoom call so people can ask questions and just learn more about how does looking at a horse and checking in with horses make you a healthier person, or how could it? How could it, right? So those are some of the really big things we have going on. We do have some retreats coming up in the fall and a few things for local people this spring, but I mean, people can reach out to me, catcaldwellmyers@gmail.com, on my website.
First of all, wow, those are all big and amazing offers. And you're a mom of 2. And how many are in your herd? How many horses and ponies do you have?
Yeah, so we have 3 full-size horses and a small pony named Chester.
Okay, so I'm just taking in all of your offerings, Kat, and I remember you saying that you met your friend Annetta on top of a building in a Wonder Woman outfit. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
You are Wonder Woman.
But the thing is, I'm not. I'm a human, Rain, just like you. That's like one of my classic downfalls, is thinking I'm Wonder Woman and that I can do all the things, and then recognizing. So that's part of me knowing, with my signature program, like, okay, I can take 2 more clients on, in April, and there might only be 1 slot by the time people hear this, or none, who knows, but we'll pick it up in the fall, just because starting to understand and relax and not overcommit ourselves is honestly something I'm in recovery from. And I think that's true for a lot of us, right?
Well, relaxing into this present moment helps, I imagine. It's definitely helpful for me. And for me, I live in the timeless. I live there, and clocks are my friend. So I do check the clock and I'm aware of time, but I live in that realm where it's just us. We're just doing our thing.
I love that. Yeah, I'm hearing like moving to time, or moving to the time too. Like,
yeah, there's a rhythm. There's a natural rhythm. And I love to think about this just as we wrap up. I love to think about how time is fiction. Time is man-made. Time is something that we put a label on a word. We created words and language for a natural rhythm and cycle that does exist. That is true of this earth, of the way that life works in this realm where we live. There are cycles and there is rhythm, but that is not the same as time. We just use time to talk about something that's already happening anyway. And I
Yeah.
prefer that realm where there's, like you said, moving to time, and maybe we could move to rhythm, and maybe we could feel the cycles of the earth and the animals in us as we move through our day. And we can look up and see the clouds and notice the clouds are moving and we're moving and everything is in movement. And here we are getting to be alive, getting the gift of life.
Yeah. And I think I'm just hearing like the unison or harmony. It's like this great orchestra as like, I mean, I'm looking at the snowy trees behind you, right? But like as these seasons change and we see our children grow and our relationship with our partner, you know, closer and further, and with our animals and their hair grows in and then it sheds out and we touch the hair and then it's all over us and in our nostrils, and like it's all just this orchestra, you know? I mean, just such a beautiful, beautiful sacred moment. Speaking of,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, everyone.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So if somebody's in that moment where they just don't know what to do, and they're facing something and they're in that unknown, what would you say?
The first thing I hear is reach out, reach out. I mean, not to make light of it, but I'm hearing like, reach out and touch someone, you know? But the other thing I'm just getting a visual is honestly just drop to your knees, you know? Prayer position, I think in all cultures can look lots of different ways, but when you actually get down and touch the earth, right? And feel the earth, if you don't want to feel it with your hands, feel it with your knees and recognize this is beyond what you're supposed to be able to deal with by yourself. It's okay. It's okay to show that you have weakness, right? And share that and ask for someone else's strength, that you need a hand up. And I think in those moments when you feel so alone, don't underestimate the power of prayer. I'm totally going to come in with this right now because, I mean, think about that story I told of my husband praying on the other side of the earth, right? And then literally this man like walks out of nowhere. Honestly, you know, I remember meeting this other guy on the journey. We stayed at this really, really sweet man's house with all these miniature donkeys in Iowa. And he had all of the quotes across their screen deck. And one of them said, let's see, God, the original Wi-Fi connection or something like that. I could be right there, you know, any moment. You're always connected, or prayer is the Wi-Fi, whatever, the original connection or something like that. And I think we can so quickly poo-poo the spirit realm, right? And this isn't about whatever religion. This is about really connecting with that thing. We don't know what it is, but when we have those moments of like, how do I go on? What do I do? Just trusting that you're not supposed to do anything right now, except recognize you're at your limit. And sometimes, I mean, I've had those moments where I'm really at a tough spot with my kids, for example. Don't be afraid of taking a break. Or you might get a kick out of this one, Rain. Heaven forbid I reached the last straw. I turned on the TV. Oh my gosh. And I remember this is in the book, Rain. I'm just losing it. I think it was like day 12 or 13 of the quarantine. I'm so tired and I've been doing everything. And I lay down on the couch, and at the time, she was a 4-year-old, 4.5-year-old. She's like, it's okay, mommy. We can watch Pinkalicious. You're going to feel better after you take a nap. You just close your eyes. And then I'm hearing, pink is the color that grows and grows. I'm like, and I wake up like drooling all over my arm. And you know what? Everything was better after that. And so I fried my kids' brains a little bit with TV, but you know what? I didn't like freak out and hurt somebody, right? So I think this is where starting to understand that it's okay. Like it's that relaxed jeans fit, y'all. Because you're the one trying to get them all tight in there and everything's going to be like this. And you know what? Was that working for you? And it's okay to hit your knees. You know, I mean, I have this sign, one of those sort of cheesy horse signs, and it says something like, when things get too hard to stand, kneel, right? And I remember when I got that, and he's like kneeling by a cross. It's kind of, I mean, maybe prisoner of war kind of a thing, but with his horse, right? And I think so often we forget, like, you're not supposed to do it all. By design, a village, a community, a home, a space. And I think something we often forget, especially when we're, say, moving, right? But even after we've arrived in the new place and we don't have that community yet, is like, we can feel so alone. And all of us just went through so much aloneness and opportunity for self-reflection. That's been something else I've been discovering for a lot of people. You already know what it is you want. You already know. You've been sitting on the couch for a long time thinking about it. The real question is, now what are you waiting for? Like, the decision was made then, but you haven't moved on it yet. Like, what? And the number of people, especially when it comes to moving out west, who are like, when my kids graduate high school, then I'll go. You know? Okay. How's that working for you? And I think it's different for each person, but it's like, yeah, I'm digressing from your question, but it's an interesting journey.
Well, this is the question. We're in the question, and I appreciate the way that we can be in the inquiry, because if somebody doesn't know what to do and they're really faced with whatever their thing is, the flat tire on the hot day with everybody, people and animals to take care of, what to do, make a picnic.
Yeah.
And then there is your friend that you didn't know you had walking up to you. And so how to get to that, oh my goodness, what, to the, yes, I will accept help. Actually, that sounds great. Has everything to do with, oh, I already know. You and I, Kat, we're talking about things that everybody already knows. People listening, all of you wonderful listeners, you know this, you know to listen to yourself. We know. We just need to remember sometimes. And when we remember, we can drop to our knees. We can put our hands in prayer. We can lay horizontal. That's one of my tricks. Sometimes when I don't know what to do, I actually get horizontal.
Yeah.
I just lay down on the ground. Indoors, outdoors, bed, whatever. Just couch, doesn't matter. Like horizontal.
Totally.
And things shift. Something happens, and it isn't up to me. And we get to remember this together. We have a part to play. We do not play all parts.
Amen. Seriously. I think it's interesting, though, especially, I'm sure you've had this experience as a parent or also working with animals, but where we do feel like, not that we're playing all the parts, but that we're responsible for how everything goes. Right. And that's, a podcast I dropped last week was, you are not responsible for the wind.
I saw that one. I want to listen to that one.
I
do listen to your show, and everyone out there listen to her show. And that's when I saw the title of, and I'm like, I gotta listen to that one.
Yeah. Short and sweet. And that one talks a lot about Briar and the meditation of doing art, which is a lot of where I'm taking a lot of my clients right now. Because it's a meditation. It's just get into that creative. If you have a dream to be with horses, we can go there. And don't make it so hard. I think that's another thing. We can make things really hard. And they're not meant to be. And we will go through hard things, and we will do hard things. Glennon Doyle, I hear you there. But like, you don't have to make them hard,
That's right. We can relax into the moment.
And choose a new pair of blue jeans if the old ones don't fit. Oh my gosh, right? It's not working for me. I have to pee all the time. I can't sit down. They might be too tight. Okay.
Cat Caldwell Myers, folks.
Aww.
Soul sister to everyone.
Oh, back at you, Rain. I love you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. It has been a great joy to have your presence here in this podcast. I welcome you to celebrate the joy and wisdom in your life exactly as it is. And I welcome you to feel loved, fully loved, exactly as you are. www.rainelizabeth.org